Jeremy here with Outfast, and today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your property insurance, renter's insurance, and what we typically recommend, but you should verify with an attorney as far as holding the property in an LLC or something that gives you some protection. So, if you're a homeowner that's living in a property and you're going to be renting it out, you just simply need to update your policy with your your insurance company. It's possible most of them will transfer it over to a policy where you can have as a rental property, but it's possible that you may have to find new coverage, especially in Florida, with it kind of being the wild, wild west sometimes when it comes to insurance. So you shouldn't really, from our experience, don't typically see that there's some sort of increase in the policy, the premium, but it's possible that company that you're working with may not insure properties for rental properties after a certain year. But it's something that you want to go ahead and get updated as soon as you can. And obviously, if you're buying a property or you already own the property and it's been a rental, then part of your closing documents would have been to have the right coverage in place already. So nothing to worry about there. It is something that you should shop around every year and review annually, as the insurance market's always changing, and just as a way to control costs. Make sure you're getting the adequate coverage and that you're being charged fairly for that. In addition, on our personal rental properties, it's not something that's required. I like it from our personal investments, is having an umbrella policy. So you get sued, you have the property stuff that can kick in, but I have $1 million over that as just a personal umbrella. Even for auto accidents, that sort of stuff can come into play. Now, when it comes to renter's insurance, our lease does require it. So we do go through an auditing thing to make sure that residents are keeping up with renter's insurance, and that they have some sort of minimum coverage available for their belongings and their contents. Also, different things can happen where on the property where they may get displaced. It's obviously helpful to have something there that can help kick in addition to some credits that they may get from the ownership. If they don't have electric or something for a few days, we'll have to give them some sort of prorated credit off the rent. Residents are going to be required to have their own renter's insurance. Hopefully our lease does say that. If we inherit a lease that does not have renter's insurance as a requirement, that'll be something that goes into the renewal process, is just getting them renewed on our paperwork, right? So that's something that should be in play. And when it comes to your entity structure, really should speak with an attorney. You kind of have the two dynamics of like your estate planning and then also like holding assets. And we just recommend not in your personal name, right? So if you're sued, you have some protections against potential creditors or people coming after you guys. So typically, what we might see is most of our clients will have something held in an LLC. And if you're flipping properties, likely you want that to be different than an LLC holding rentals from a risk standpoint, but also different tax implications. So most of our clients have LLCs. There's a couple that have them in trusts. Land trust can give you a smoke screen, not knowing who's sort of behind it, but it doesn't really offer you any protection. So sometimes people have their property in a land trust with the beneficiary as an LLC. But I think just to keep it simple, just get get an LLC set up. Consult with an attorney. It's pretty easy to set up yourself, or you could have somebody do it for you, and put the property in some type of entity, maybe an LLC instead of your personal name. And that's easy to update with us. Once you do that, we just basically take some new ownership information, the EIN, that sort of thing, and change it in your profile. It's not a big deal. But those are definitely some of the basics. Insurance coverage, making sure it's adequate for the property, the value, the replacement value, all of that stuff. But then as a second part of that is making sure that you have the entity coverage as well there for you if a tenant gets sued. They're going to sue both of us. If something happens, right, we're all going to get sort of thrown into the mix as well. So that's something that's super common, very easy to set up as well. But there's a lot of literature out there on different ways of holding properties. If you have multiple properties, you could do one LLC per property. You could come down, depending on your personal risk. I might have a couple properties in one LLC, just depending on the asset values that are there. So just remember, every year you're going to have a return that you have to file. So if you have 20 different properties with 20 different LLCs, it's going to be expensive, or hopefully your CPA will give you some sort of benefit. So it's really personal preference. There's no sort of right or wrong answer, but that's just getting something in place is something that you definitely want to do, and not skimping on the cost of the insurance policies that you have, and then also just the initial setup and then the annual renewal for keeping the LLC active with the Sunbiz in the state of Florida. So hopefully that's helpful. I'll give you some insights. We have referrals for obviously insurance if you need it, but it's something you should constantly be taking a look at, especially in Florida with all the storms and stuff that come through. The carriers could be changing things yearly. You just want to make sure that you're not underinsured or going with the cheapest policy, especially in regards to insurance. Typically is not going to be the one that's going to protect you the most. So hopefully this gives you some insights. Thanks for watching.